What's going on, guys? We just have a quick little fly tying tutorial for you here today. If you follow me on social media, a couple weeks ago I went through kind of my favorite nymphs for winter steelhead here in the Great Lakes region. I live in Western New York and spent a lot of time in Erie and obviously our surrounding tributaries here. I just kind of broke down some of my favorite nymphs for wintertime steelhead, and this is one of those nymphs that was featured. This is the little black nymph, which comes from Carl Wexelman's book, Fly Fishing Guide to Steelhead Alley. It's a great book. I definitely recommend you checking it out. But without further ado, let's start tying. We're just going to start with a 3X strong scud hook in the vise, and I have a copper tungsten bead, inverting tungsten bead, tied on there. So just very quickly, just to start, we'll start our thread here. And then we need to kind of secure that bead into the proper position here. So typically, if you just kind of make some wraps up against the beads, it'll just kind of set it right next to it, kind of straight up and down. And I'll just kind of check it, kind of tilt it as needed. And then you're just going to build a thread dam right here behind the bead, just until it's nice and tied in there, and then just advance your thread down to where the barb is. So for the tail on this guy, we're going to have some black goose biots here. So when you look at a goose biot here, you'll notice there's a little bit of natural curvature kind of in the material. And so I want that curvature to be so if I set it on top of the hook, it kind of curves up away from the shank. And then to tie in, since I'm wrapping away from me, materials have a tendency to roll. So in order to actually tie this in properly, I'm going to switch hands here. I'm actually just going to have that biot right on top of the hook shank here. And then when I tie in, it's going to actually roll that material to the far side of the hook for me. I'll just put some extra securing wraps in here. And you can see now with that kind of natural bend in the fiber, that kind of bends it away a little bit. If I need to, I can even kind of move that material down. And then same thing with my other one. I want that bend kind of pointing away from the shank. I'm just going to kind of measure it here, kind of bring it down the hook a little bit, and then just kind of give a loose wrap, and then a couple of tighter ones because I don't want that one to roll quite so much. And then you're just going to advance your thread forward and just kind of tie these biots down the rest of the way up to the bead. I didn't quite catch that one there, so we'll cut that one there. Hey guys, sorry for the quick interruption. I just wanted to let you know very quickly that if you're watching this and you are not a fly tyer yourself, or if you know someone that is looking to get started tying flies this year in 2026, that's starting this Monday, January 5th, at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be launching our very first episode of our beginner fly tying series here on YouTube. We are going to be starting from absolutely ground zero, starting off by looking at basic functions of a vise, picking out some beginner materials, and then kind of some beginner flies to get you going and get you started, and then hopefully more and more advanced from there. But I think it's gonna be really exciting. I know my buddy Nick is looking to get into fly tying, and I promised him these videos years ago. Finally making it happen. So like I said, Monday, January 5th, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be premiering, and obviously they'll still be here housed on YouTube. But yeah, join us for that. And if you want to stay in the loop on kind of the latest videos and whatnot that I have here on the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and turn on the notifications if you really want to see when the videos drop. And yeah, back to your regularly scheduled programming. So, and then for the abdomen, I'm going to use some ultra wire in black, the small black. And what I'll typically do is I'll tie my wire in on the far side of the hook. So it's coming down the side of the hook there, all the way back to where I tied in those biots. And then I'm going to wrap nice and evenly up towards the bead, so I have a nice even surface so my wire sits nicely there for the abdomen. And then you can definitely use the rotary function on the vise. I prefer to kind of wrap this by hand so that I can set these wire wraps right next to each other. And I'm just going to keep wrapping all the way forward If it's not perfect, if you do have some gaps, you can, you know, unwind, get them closer. At the end of the day, the fish really don't care that much. And if they're worried about an extra wide gap in your wire, then frankly, they're too smart for us to catch anyways. So a couple wraps to secure the wire. And then these days I do cut my wire just to kind of save it from kinking. And then for my wing case here, I'm going to tie in some Mirage tinsel, the medium opal. So I'll just kind of stick that tinsel right behind the bead. Tie it in like so. And then we're just going to take some black peacock dubbing here, some black SLF dubbing. And we're just going to twist this into a little dubbing noodle. And we're just going to make a few wraps to create a little bit of a wing case, a little bit of a thorax here. You can kind of pull those fibers, kind of clean that up a little bit. And then take our tinsel, pull it forward over the bead, and we're just going to wrap right between that dubbing ball and the bead. Typically 3 times, and I lift once, twice, and then I will come in with my scissors and cut that tight there. So since I am going to put some resin on top of that wing case, I won't actually put super glue on like I normally do, so I'll just do a very simple 3-turn whip finish. 1, 2, 3, just like so. Go ahead and snip that thread. Looks pretty good. So I'll just use this Solar-X, this thick hard Solar-X. I'm just going to wait till kind of a bubble kind of comes out the tip. I'm just going to take that bubble, just kind of pull it right over top of that inverting bead there, just so I have a little blob of it kind of sitting right on top of my fly. And then I'm going to come in with my UV light and cure that guy, just like so. And then I don't have a lot of extra fibers of my dubbing hang out, but if you really want to, you can kind of come through and you can kind of clean those up a little bit. If you want to, you can take your scissors and kind of work your biots out a little bit more, if you so desire. Kind of splay those guys out a little bit more. The reality is when your fly sits into the box, your box tends to splay those biots out for you a little bit better. But yeah, that's the little black nymph. Go ahead and whip some up yourself, and happy fishing.